Right. Well, welcome everybody. I think we still got a couple of people entering the room here. We'll start in just a minute, but welcome, and we'll look forward to talking to you in just a few seconds. All right. Good morning. I'm Jim West. I am the Associate Director at BioTools Innovator, and we're here to talk to you about our BioTools Innovator Accelerator with our first BioTools only focused info session. We did one a few weeks ago that's on our website with our sister accelerator, MedTech Innovator. But this one's just about BioTools Innovator. So we're planning to spend about a half hour kind of talking about the program, and then we'll reserve the remainder time for any questions you guys might have. And I'm excited today because we're joined by Ricky Sparrow, founder and CEO of Redbud Labs, who was happened to be the winner of our best video competition last year. Um, Ricky, you're with us. Maybe you could just quickly introduce yourself and introduce the company.
Sure, yeah. And glad to be here. I'm Ricky Spiro. I'm the CEO and one of the founders at Redbud Labs. So we're a tools company based in Research Triangle area in North Carolina. We have a tool for automated sample prep for molecular workflows, sequencing, PCR. That's super compact, super easy to use, based on a microfluidics technology that we spun out of UNC. So it's a just entering commercial phase now, and maybe some of the other details will come up as we talk. But that's kind of the size and shape of what we do.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Ricky, and thanks for joining us this morning. So,
But
I want to talk to you about BioTools Innovator. And so, just real briefly, we're an accelerator focused on helping support life science technologies. And we're going into our fifth year, so we've had 4 years in operation, and we've had a lot of great success over that period. We've helped more than 63 cohort companies that just got upgraded because we closed Ricky's accelerator year back in October. But we've given away more than $1.4 million in cash prize awards, and companies that have gone through the accelerator have to date raised more than $166 million in follow-on funding. And our program is part of a bigger family of accelerators. So, like I said, we have another accelerator, MedTech Innovator, focused on medical devices. We have a MedTech Innovator Asia Pacific, also focused on medical devices, but for the Asia Pacific market entry. That program is run out of Singapore. You can see here on MedTech Innovator, we also have these tracks: plastic surgery, military, and heart and brain. So these are more focused accelerator tracks. If any of these are of interest to you, reach out to us. We can connect you to the MedTech Innovator or Asia Pacific team if you think that may be a fit for your program as well. And then on BioTools Innovator, we also are starting a new track called BioTools Innovator Vanguard. And this is a track sponsored by BARDA, a new partnership we've just developed. We did recently close our first funding solicitation in collaboration with BARDA, where we're able to award grants on the order of $50 to $200,000 for emerging technologies of interest to BARDA. But BioTools Vanguard is, in addition to our accelerator, effectively supporting the sponsorship of an additional up to 10 companies this coming year. So, what is Vanguard? Well, in addition to the 10 companies, it's really for supporting use cases in public health emergencies and medical countermeasures. These are the areas of BARDA's interest and why they exist. What's I think pretty exciting about this partnership is unlike a lot of U.S. government institutions, this is really supported around the world. So we're not geographically limited to just U.S. companies when we're looking at both the grants and acceptance into the BioTools Vanguard program. Just to be clear, this program runs in conjunction with our traditional accelerator, so there's not going to be a lot of differences between BioTools Vanguard and our BioTools Innovator Accelerator. It just allows us to do a little bit more than we have traditionally. And so, in terms of BioTools Innovator, who are we and what kind of value do we provide? Well, we have, when we talk to our alumni like Ricky here, and one of the most common pieces of feedback in terms of like what is the value of BioTools Innovator? And a lot of it's the people and it's the ecosystem. And so you can see here we've got a pretty broad group of strategics, investors, and subject matter experts. This is not an all-inclusive list, it's a sample. And I can tell you, when I actually went through the first year of BioTools Innovator myself with my company back in 2021, and when I came here and saw the investor list, I was like, this is the list I've been building over the last 2 years trying to connect with these venture capital investors. And they're all right here. So it's really a great ecosystem. And Ricky, maybe you could talk a little bit about your interaction with the ecosystem and maybe some experiences you've gotten out of that.
Yeah, I think, it's funny when I first thought about applying I had the same experience. And even as you're applying to a program like this, you kind of never know until you show up how that's going to go, like how engaged are people and do the people that are on the kind of nameplate version of the program actually show up in the room when the time comes. And I was actually I was surprised at how engaged everyone was. So the first kind of big in-person event is that summit in June, and you end up sitting next to the CTO of one of the big guys just at lunch, right? And companies at all different stages, because a lot of the prior cohorts show up, and so a lot of people that are kind of similar companies that or companies that swim in the same water but are a stage or two ahead, or a stage or two back, and that's just a great environment to be in. Everyone's kind of working on related problems and has ideas on how to work on your thing. So it's people that are going through the same stuff, and then from the incumbents, from the investor community, um, all those people that are very much in the universe of people that we were trying to reach out to. In our case, actually, the extreme version of this was, you'll probably talk about this. You get matched with mentors in the program, and one of our mentors was is the kind of critical product manager in one of the incumbents in our space. And so it was perfect, right? It was exactly the person that we needed to find and make a champion for what we were doing. And that was a hugely kind of productive relationship. So yeah, it's an amazing community, and more than that, it's like a really engaged community. People really did show up and pay attention and spend time and want to work with the other companies. It was cool.
Yeah, thanks, Ricky. And just so it's a little clear, these companies they participate in our review phase of applications. We'll talk about these, our road tour pitch events. They come out and they help judge companies, provide feedback, and they also serve as panelists and mentors to our companies. So I want to talk now about kind of the value of what we provide, or I'm sorry, not the value of what we provide. This is the types of companies we support. And so it's always a big question, and sometimes there is some gray zone. So if you have any questions after this, please reach out. We're happy to discuss your particular technology and use case and its fit. But broadly, we support research products and instruments, R&D and manufacturing tools and services, diagnostics, particularly around molecular diagnostics and things like that, drug discovery, drug development, AI through all of that. We also support impacts to human health from the food and agriculture side of things. And now with BARDA, we're expanding to improve preparedness for medical countermeasures. And so, across these categories, again, the number one question is, do you support drug companies, pharmaceutical companies, biotech companies? And generally the answer is probably not. We don't support regulated products. So if you require clinical trials and FDA approval or equivalent, that's probably not going to be a fit for us. We serve more on the platforms, the life sciences tools side of the space. But again, there are exceptions. Sometimes companies have a platform that is more of a bio tool than maybe their main product. So there is some nuance, and we could talk about that. But I wanted to dive into each of these categories and talk about some example companies that we've worked with. So in research products and instruments, Ricky, you did a little bit of an intro for Redbud, but definitely. Cool technology for lab automation. Ricky, we were talking about this before you came on, and it's in a video we'll watch in just a minute, but you really adopted a new tagline, which I love.
Yeah, um, so actually the backstory briefly to this is as part of the kind of application process or the extended interviewing process, you get these groups together to do pitch sessions that might be 5, 10 minutes long, but at the very beginning, you have the companies introduce themselves in 60 seconds. And I wanted to write down my 60 seconds and make sure I got the right stuff in there. And I kept getting like taking too much time on the problem statement. We do sample prep. It's like the most boring segment in all of life sciences. And I was spending all this time explaining the problems in sample prep. And I finally said, I don't have time for any of this. And I just said, everybody hates sample prep. And then I was free to go spend the rest of the time talking about all the things I wanted to talk about. And that line kind of took on a life of its own, and we ended up using it in the video. And subsequently, we've actually used it in some of our messaging directly to customers.
Yeah, and I'm glad you said that, Ricky, because I think one of the benefits of our ecosystem too is, when you come to our judging event, all we do is life science technology. So you don't have to explain to the audience what is sample prep and why is it important to an assay development process, right? Like they already get that. So you can take some shortcuts. With assumptions. So these are some example companies kind of in that category. We just wanted to give you a little bit of a sense of flavor. So as an example, Glyphic Bio was in my year back in 2021, doing protein sequencing, pretty cool technologies there. I'll go through these a little bit quicker. So we have a company out of Switzerland, Limula. They they're kind of in that manufacturing tool space and helping to scale up cell therapies. We have Real Reactor, a US-based company, um, to also do continuous flow cell manufacturing. Pretty cool stuff there. Then we have diagnostics and enabling technologies. One of our companies, RealSeq, is discovering biomarkers, and so they do this in massively multiplexed ways. It's pretty cool. And we have another company, Anvil Diagnostics, in this last year, um, developing really detection of a variety of viruses and other conditions based on biomarkers in a high performance way. Drug discovery. So one of the areas that some of our companies are going on is kind of AI driven drug discovery or AI driven data collection for drug discovery. So um, Narwhal is an example of that. Uh, and then React for Life is actually based in Italy. They came through this last year, and they're doing organ on a chip technologies. It's all pretty diverse. And again, these are not all inclusive. Just want to give you some samples of the types of companies within these categories, but it's very much open beyond here. We also have a company called mGenesis, which happened to be our winner of our grand prize this last year. mGenesis is an embryo viability platform for detecting the most viable embryos. Started in cattle, moving to human, really exciting technology. And Bioreactor is another one, kind of back with the AI-powered platform, doing massively multiplexed data collection, but they're applying their technology to both food and drug development. Medical countermeasures. So we have CellRev doing vaccine development, manufacturing enhancement. Atom Bioworks is uh, helping to scale the manufacturing of therapeutics, and Epicipher is focused on epigenomic solutions for personalized medicine. So, without further ado, what does it take to get into the program? Well, we're open to a pretty wide variety of companies. So we support companies anywhere from pre-seed up through Series A or B. Our real cutoff right now is about $20 million in equity funding. So, Ricky, you got in, but you've done very well with your company in terms of grants. Um, and so I think with your combination of equity and grants, you may not have been a fit, but with just the equity, you were a fit. Was that right?
Yeah, that's right. So we uh we're I don't think we're the only company that does this, but I think we're one of the few that brags about it or talks about it explicitly. So we're about 10 to 1 in non-dilutive to dilutive funding. So total money into Redbud right now is about 30 million, just over, and about 10% of that is private capital, mostly angels. And the rest is mostly NIH SBIRs. And so, yeah, all of our product development was funded by SBIRs. That's been super important for us. And, it was interesting to see, um, there's a lot of kind of cross-pollination and conversation among the companies in the cohort. And that was one of the places where I felt like we could kind of um, put something into the community, because we've written a lot of grants, and we've run a lot of grant programs, and so that was one of the places where we could give some advice or some perspective, uh, along with all the advice and perspective we were taking.
Thanks, Ricky. Yeah. And because of the nature of the program, especially being pretty mentorship based, it means that we can actually help a pretty broad array of companies. So we are actually growing the funding, the equity cutoff. It was actually $10 million last year. We're growing it to 20 this year, so we're able to expand the types and range of companies we can support. And generally, there needs to be some sort of a proof of concept or a prototype. If there's some, questions here or, depending on kind of what data you have, feel free to talk to us and reach out. But, there's always a range of pre-seed, seed, and Series A companies that do make it in. And then the other question is, do I have to be an actual incorporated company by the time we start? And the answer is yes, but not by the time you apply. So, um, to make it into the program, you do need to be incorporated, but you don't need to uh, do it. Did I lose my screen? I think I did. Sorry about that. Let me find this again. So, you don't need to be incorporated until the program starts. So if there's any questions about that, just let us know. But there's no challenge with that. We work around the world, so if you've got different regulations or different sort of corporate structures, it just needs to be incorporated in some way. And let me get this going again. All right. The real big ask we have is that companies accepted into the program need to commit a founder or a CEO or senior member to attend and participate at our summit kickoff and our closing capstone in person. That's very important, but the rest of the program does run virtually. So, what does it cost? Well, it doesn't cost any money. We're generously sponsored by our corporate and foundational partnerships and sponsors to be able to provide this program free of charge to companies. We don't take any equity and we don't charge any money. We are adding this year an addition to our program. So we are in the process of putting together a fund to invest in portfolio companies. So we are asking that companies that participate do give us a right to invest after the program at their next qualified financing. But there are no stipulations or special features of this. We're helping you as a company, and we'd like a right to invest at whatever the market rate is, and that should help you close your round and be a win for everybody. We aren't able to provide support for travel, so travel, hotel, those expenses are on your own, and then you have to commit some time. But it's definitely a valuable use of resources. Myself and Ricky can both confirm that. So let's talk about the process real quick. So we're in application phase right now. So applications are open until January 15th. Um, and it's a great time to apply. And if you apply early, we actually start reviewing applications and inviting to our next phase really at the first of the year. And so those companies that are invited to pitch, that's sort of the first selection phase. So we have our ecosystem of reviewers who review our applications, and we earmark the top really 10 to 20% to invite to one of our in-person road tour pitch events. Now, what is a pitch event? So it's basically we go to a location and we bring out a bunch of our ecosystem people and we invite a number of you guys out who are selected as finalists. And you sit down at a table with five, six, seven of our sort of experts, investors, strategics at a table, and you spend about 5 to 10 minutes pitching your company and about 5 to 10 minutes in Q&A, 20 minutes total. And at the end of that, we get feedback from the judges. You get provided feedback afterwards from the comments, and I think a lot of great connections and opportunities are made. You know, Ricky, you experienced this. Can you share a little bit of your thoughts here as well?
Yeah, I think so. We were I had conflicting travel, and so I ended up doing the virtual road tour. Um, but um, I've been in a variety of these pitch events, and there's different ways of structuring them. One of the things that you guys did that I liked was you kept the groups pretty small. So it was kind of this round robin style where you were effectively at a table. I was at a virtual table, but um, you're at a table with three, four uh, people who know what they're talking about, and you're just talking to them, and they get to ask questions. So you go through your pitch deck, and then 5 or 10 minutes later, next group of people come through, and you get to do the same thing. So you're giving your pitch multiple times, but you really end up in conversation with a pretty small group of people each time. And that was a really nice way to you can kind of get a sense for what where people's area of interest is or where you need to focus in this conversation versus the next conversation. So you actually meet the people a little bit. And um, for us, I thought that was a nice format. It worked out pretty well. And it gave me the sense that we were actually getting across the information that the people on the other side of the table needed to hear in order to understand who we are and what we were doing.
Yeah, exactly. And it gives you multiple shots on goal. So you can, if you got one bad room, you still get other rooms to
Yeah. And if,
recover.
if someone like wants to dominate the table, they only get to dominate the two or three other people that are there. They can't poison it for everybody else. So you do kind of get a number of passes through it.
That's right. So that's our event. We do one in Boston, one in San Diego. We're going to expand to a European visit this year, and then we'll have one virtual for those unable to attend the in-person events. But there's a lot of value in the in-person events. And from those road tours, which run March through May, we will invite up to 30 companies this year to participate in the accelerator. And then once in the accelerator, you have a chance to compete for up to $300,000 in our cash prizes. So here's a quick program date overview. So again, applications close on January 15th. Our road tour is still developing. So we're planning for March 12th in East Coast. That'll be in Boston. We're planning for April 2nd on the West Coast, and right now that will be San Diego. And when you're filling out your applications, we actually ask you to select, what's your preferred location to be invited to for a pitch event. So, if you don't make it into your preferred event, but you're still a contender, we would obviously reach out and say, hey, can you make it to this other one instead? But we'll work through that. But you do get to pick out your sort of preferred locations. Um, and then in early June, we'll make notifications of your acceptance into the accelerator, and then you can start making plans for the Innovator Summit, which is the kickoff of all of our accelerator programs in San Jose, California, just a little bit south of San Francisco. And it's a 2 to 3 day summit where we bring together all of you guys, the different programs, our ecosystem, and we'll go into a little bit more detail about what we do at the summit. The accelerator starts right after that, so you can get assigned mentors. We run weekly panels, and then we close with the capstone event, which is going to be in October, but the details are still being decided. So, in terms of the road tour, like I said, we've got our East Coast, West Coast, Europe. These are some of our judge and mentor organizations that are coming around, showing up, participating at all of them. So, BARDA, Agilent, Nissan, um, Thermo Fisher are all great strategic companies. And then we've got a great number of investors too. These are one of my favorite parts of the program, and I think even myself and others who go through it, even if you aren't selected into the program, which is pretty common your first year, but people still get a lot of value out of these road tour events. Let's talk about the summit. So it's a multi-day forum, and Ricky, maybe you could talk about your experience at the summit and what you really liked about it. What were your favorite parts?
No, I guess for me it was that realization that there is a pretty big network there. A lot of the network value, I think, we're only just uh, at kind of the starting gun of where that becomes useful. There's a really active Slack for the alumni community, and so it's kind of the first window into that. I think that was the main impression. Of course, you get to meet the other cohort companies, and that's where you get a chance. The way we did it in the last cycle, you gave us a chance to say, oh, this might be a good group of CEOs, or a couple of names of CEOs that I'd like to be in a pod with and meet with, every other week or so. Um, and so having that just in-person experience at the beginning was a good way to frame everything up. There were a couple of great panels, a couple incumbents that um, put people on panels. It was a chance to go kind of meet them face to face. Yeah, it's just, I mean, it's a great community. It was a pretty efficient use of time, and the right people in the room. So you can't ask for much more than that if you're going to go to a place.
Yeah, well, one of my favorite experiences there is we invite a lot of our alumni back, and the alumni will run little like roundtable groups of discussions for like 20 minutes, and they'll talk about a topic like hiring and firing, or fundraising, or how to take care of my mental health, all these different topics, and there's dozens of them. And they break off in these little circles, and they do like we do little silent discos. And so everybody's got headsets, so you can kind of go to the circle that you're interested in, and you can kind of put your headphones on and listen to that person because it's a loud room. So we do the silent disco, but instead of playing music, we share CEO experiences. So there's lots of great stuff, but that's how we kick things off. It's how you meet everybody and kind of get connected. Um, so, real quick on the accelerator itself. So, what do we provide? Educational curriculum. So, we do cohort-driven panels of webinars. So, we invite experts to speak to topics of interest. We do these weekly through the program, and we also have additional value out of workshops and other things that kind of pop up through the program. But you're looking at about an hour. an hour and a half a week on panels, webinar type content. And by the way, if you're interested, we do record the first hour of the webinars, and those are on our website. So if you're interested in learning about some of the topics or want to go deeper right now, we have our history of videos there. But these will be done each year. Mentorship. So we provide each company with at least one, oftentimes more mentors, and these are specially selected to help companies connect to people who can help them solve the problems in front of them. And so if it's fundraising or if it's really figuring out distribution or figuring out how to scale your company, whatever the topic is, we connect with you and try to get you qualified mentors to help. Ricky, how many did you have mentor wise?
We had kind of two plus a bonus. So we had two that we met with regularly, and then one that was kind of like a special conversation that you set us up with on a particular topic.
Yeah, and you guys, did you meet weekly, bi-weekly? How often did you guys meet?
Yeah, I worked my mentors pretty hard. We met every other week, and at the beginning, I sent them each a deck that said basically, here's the kind of stuff that I'm hoping to talk about, and here's kind of a list of conversations that would be useful to have. We worked our way through that, and then depending on what was going on a given week, we talked about some other stuff too. But yeah, I kind of gave them an agenda and said, here's some things I'd like to talk about, and we met every other week.
Great. Recognition and visibility. So, being in the program is a mark of recognition. We also are opening up we're trialing right now a platform. It's an investment platform. So, for companies that have gone through the accelerator, when you're raising, we have investors who connect with us and review this data. So, they're always looking for kind of companies within the portfolio who are raising. So, we have a chance to highlight companies there. Um, we always attend JP Morgan, so we have opportunities to connect and promote companies during JP Morgan and other places as well. So the Capstones one. Um, Community, again, I think when I talk to founders who've been through the program, this ends up being the number one point of value is just having yourself surrounded by experts who understand, investors who get it and care, and a group of growing alumni and cohort CEOs who you can connect with, talk to, and talk about your problems. And one of the things we introduced new this last year was our leadership pods. And Ricky, I think you were pretty active in your pod, weren't you?
Yeah, no, we had a good group.
And what were some of the things you guys talked about in your pod? And are you guys still meeting after the program?
We did meet once after, and my guess is it'll happen, kind of sporadically. I don't know. Maybe some of the people listening have done kind of CEO peer groups before. I've been in that context a few different times, and um, it varies a lot depending on the structure and who shows up. Um, but it's the kind of experience you end up with is pretty conventional, right? You get a bunch of founder CEOs together and they talk about the stuff that they're worried about, right? And it tends to be a pretty non-judgmental environment. Nobody's trying to buy or sell anything. Um, and so it ends up being a great place to talk about the operational stuff that has people worried, whether it's financing or how to run your team, how to work with a board, how to um, talk to investors, or just like in some cases mental health. We've spent one of our meetings on basically mental health um, and stress. And one of the nice things about our group was it had a mix of it had true first time, just started the company CEO. And we also had someone who had like built and sold multiple companies, and then some people who are kind of in the middle, like me. And so it was a really good mix of people that had different kinds of experience and people that were asking questions versus people that, had a bunch of answers kind of under their hat and ready to go.
Thanks, Ricky. And we also have other resources. So partnering opportunities, investments, insights. We're able to offer access to certain databases of investor and company information as part of the program and being an alumni as well. Um, and then fellow project support. So we also provide kind of highly qualified interns. They're not interns, but they're people who are in the life sciences, probably students getting their PhDs, working on things, and we provide them as some availability for some limited support on different activities. And funding. So we do have the funding platform. We are going to be launching our fund here pretty shortly. And then we give away our grand prize. The grand prize is $250,000, and then some smaller follow-up prizes are awarded. So $300,000 in total, at least right now. And then, after the accelerator, you do all those things. Then we come together and we do the capstone event. And so the capstone has a couple of these awards. We've got the grand prize award. It's actually voted on live by the audience. And we have the best video award, which, Ricky, you were the winner this year of the best video award, right?
We were. Yep.
And I'm actually going to play the video next, but
Oh,
it's a great video. But you can see because it's actually one of the things we ask companies to do as well is we ask them to create an about us 1 minute video. Super hard, but it's really valuable. And there's so many ways that you can use this video. Um, Ricky, real quick, are there any interesting ways you've used your video to open doors in any way since you sort of created it?
we didn't do a lot of shopping around with it. We don't. I haven't been in the habit of sending it to people. I've talked to other CEOs who say now, when someone says, "Hey, send me your pitch deck," they say, "Well, actually, just watch this video first, and then if that's interesting, let's talk." I haven't done that, but we did put it on our website. It's there right on the product page, and we actually intentionally designed it because we didn't just want it to be an investor video. We wanted it to be something that we could show our customers and have them kind of understand who we are. So it was a little bit more of like a brand story video, and it's just been really useful to have. And it did. I think it walked around a little bit on LinkedIn for a while. So I did get some comments back from my network.
That's great. So each company gets a chance to be showcased at our capstone event. Our ecosystem comes out. It's usually a 1 day event, and lots of great networking, lots of great connections, and awards to be given. So that's the conclusion of our program. That happens in October. And here's
You only get good data out of sequencing or PCR when you put a lot of good molecules in. Getting those molecules ready is called sample prep. Everybody hates sample prep. In today's world, doing sample prep by hand doesn't cut it. And the big automation platforms are built for high throughput. They just aren't practical for most labs. Labs need automated sample prep that's so simple, so reliable, so easy to use and maintain that they could put it anywhere. So we built Redbud NA1. We used patented technology to automate gold standard sample prep in a microfluidic cartridge. It's the same chemistry everyone knows and trusts, just easier and ready whenever you need it. Wherever there's life, there's molecular testing. And wherever there's molecular testing, there's sample prep. At Redbud, we love sample prep, so you don't have to.
all right. Great job, Ricky.
You only get good data.
There we go. All right, so we're going to wrap up here and open this up for questions here in just a minute. But our application deadline, like I said, is January 15th. If you submit it earlier, we do start reviewing and inviting companies to our limited slots really at the first of the year. So if you can get in early, that's great. But January 15th will be the cutoff. And there's a link to the application. Also, you can simply just go to our website, and from the website, you can get access to the application. So with that, we will stop the slides here. Ricky, thanks so much for joining us. You're welcome to stick around and answer questions, but we're going to open this up to questions now. if anybody has any. And if you can, please submit them to the Q&A section of this. They get kind of lost in the conversation chat. Uh, and to kick this off first, we will be sharing this presentation to our website, and we'll share it all with you guys afterwards. So a recording will be provided. Don't worry about taking too many notes or missing a slide or something like that. So let's see here. The first question, it appears that our company is developing antibody drug conjugates for treating cancer, would not be as suitable for this platform, right? Um, so the answer is maybe. Um, if you're doing the discovery with the intent to turn these into a treatment yourself that you're going to be running clinical trials for, then likely you would not be a fit. If there's another company or another use of these, then maybe you would be a fit, and we could talk about that. Um, this one I already answered. Will the presentation be accessible? Yes, we will share the video and the content afterwards. Next question. Could you elaborate on MTI BTI's position on supporting an ecosystem of technologies instead of a single solution? For example, an ecosystem that might include drug delivery, diagnostic devices, and AI tools. Um, I think, not every, but a lot of our companies aren't just in one simple category. They're not just doing AI. They're not just doing microfluidics. They're not just doing, some sort of manufacturing process. They might be, but I think, it's really not about a single solution versus a multiplexed solution. It's really more about what's the business, what's the industry. If it's a medical device, if it's going to be a product that touches people, impacts patients directly, it's probably going to be a fit for the MedTech Innovator Accelerator. If it's a platform that doesn't quite have that regulatory component, and you're really selling broadly to industry, to pharma, to CDMOs, CROs, things like that, that's a great fit for us. So I'd say if that doesn't answer your question, please reach out afterwards, and
Yeah.
we can discuss with you. Ricky?
And Jim, I can take a swing at this. I think one helpful thing to understand is the process that you end up going through when you apply is very much a pitch process. It's a company pitch process. And so, you get in front of any investor and if you say, our company is a platform, then the conversation won't go very well, right? If you say we have platform technology, and on that platform we can build this, this, and this, and here's what we're going to go. The opportunity may be this, but right now what we're doing is this, and here's the size of that market, and here's how we're going to go after it. Here's the company we're going to build on this application of the technology or this kind of direction that we're going to take that platform. If that story isn't there on how the platform will be applied to solve a problem that's associated with a market opportunity, then I think based on the process we went through, you'll get beat up pretty bad. If you have that story together, then I think the reception is very good. We have a platform technology. You can use it for immunoassays. You can use it for diagnostics. You can use it for research. You can use it for biomanufacturing, industrial. But we picked something to talk about. We said we're going to build a company here, and by the way, the IP estate is gigantic, and there may be kind of sidecar opportunities if you really want to drill into those.
Yeah, great point, Ricky. And I would say that's probably one of the biggest challenges of applicant companies is we got this tool that can be everything to everybody. But you got to have a specific use case, a specific application to be successful. If you try to, corporate word, boil the ocean, it's not going to work well. And so if you don't know your application, if you've got a technology that's pretty broad and has a lot of utility, but you're not sure where it should go, that's okay. Be honest about that and say, I'm trying to figure it out. And there's lots of companies who come in trying to figure this question out while they're in the program, and through mentorship, through guidance and feedback, oftentimes we're able to help guide them to an interesting and good first product market entry. But if you don't know it, don't let it dissuade you. But it is going to be a question, and it's a until you figure it out, it is a point of perceived weakness. All right, next question. Are IPS tool cells eligible? That's a good question. Uh, I think it depends on how you're using your IPS cells. So if you're just going to use them for like a regenerative therapy product, or some sort of a cell therapy type product, then maybe not. Um, but if you're going to use them in a research way or a tool building way or some other, if you're building a business on top of IPS cell something, then maybe there's something there and we could talk. So if there's, it's a need to know a little more before we gave you a complete answer, but the answer is maybe.
Yeah, and Jim, like you
Yeah.
said, it's like I mean, there were companies with technologies of all different kinds, right? Hardware, software, chemistry, biologics across the board. So it's not really a technology limitation. It's not horizontals, it's verticals. What are the markets? And so, BioTools has this pretty clear slice of markets or verticals that you say, no, we're going to let other people worry about those. So like you say, how you're using them, what market it's going after, who the customers are.
Yep. And again, if you have questions yourself and you're trying to figure it out, I would still encourage you to apply because we can provide, potentially some feedback, and you can take that. And if you don't get in the first year, you can take that feedback and grow. And just like investors, we love to see tenacious people who make progress and come back and say, "Hey, you know what? I de-risked a little bit here and here, and now I think I'm really ready." And that's great. Our next question is, I've developed a technology in an academic startup setting. My team members have built this kind of technology as well. Would this satisfy the prototype requirement? Um, and the answer is probably. It's
I'll take a swing at this one too,
yeah,
Jim.
yeah.
Because this is what we did, right? We have a spin out technology. I think the question that you can expect to get a lot of scrutiny around is how relevant is the prototype that you're saying you built in the research environment? Um, we're a materials company at our core. That's what our core technology is. When we spun out of UNC, we'd run that process, you know, tens of times, and we've now run it tens of thousands of times. And we've built an entire hardware software system with a microfluidic consumable around that technology. That's a very different kind of, even if it were still a prototype, that integrated system is a very different prototype than the prototype of the raw technology that we were spinning out of the university. And the folks that review these and that you end up in the pitch conversations with, through the roundtables later on, they're sophisticated investors, and they will tease that apart, and they will get to the bottom of how relevant is the past prototype work. The question is, how much technical risk is gone, and are you really ready, or how long is it going to be until you're ready to start selling product? And if that is too far into the future, if there's too much money or too much time between here and where there's going to be product on the market, again, I think it'll be a pretty chilly reception.
Yeah, the great context there, Ricky. I think we do take companies pre-seed, seed, and Series A. So pre-seed would be kind of that we're still figuring out the base technology. There's fewer of those companies than the others, simply because there's so many unknowns and the risks are higher. But if you've got promising opportunities, if you've got a track record of success, all of these things matter and add credibility. So I would encourage you to apply. I think you probably be a fit, but as Ricky said, there will be questions about like, how do you know what, is this going to be really applicable to the product you're building? Do you know about the market? These will be questions, but it seems reasonable. All right, next question. Can literature review and hypotheses and previous large-scale manufacturing experience be considered as proof of concept evidence to apply for grant in order to generate data and to establish benchtop prototype for manufacturing process development? Um, Great question. And again, I think this all comes back to it depends. It depends on credibility, what you've done in the past, how confident you are in what you're doing, the technological risk. If it's a low technological risk and you're putting things together in a novel way, I mean, that doesn't seem too hard. But it really depends on kind of the package you put together and what you're trying to do. It will be likely a source of questions, but it may not be disqualifying. So if you have more questions, again, I'd encourage you to reach out. We can talk about it. But you know, you're going to be up against people who have a lot of data, and so it's just a question of sort of that risk benefit analysis. Do you have anything to add to that, Ricky?
I think maybe this is, I'm reading this into the question, but my interpretation of it, the way it's written, is basically can we apply to BioTools Innovator to do technical work, or to get an award? Like, is the award or the prize at the end usable for this? And I think, just to be clear, the prize at the end is cash that companies can go do whatever they want to go do with. There's no like use of funds slide in any of the stuff that we showed on what we would do if we got the money. That really is just it's a beauty pageant, right? You're on stage, you give your pitch, and if the audience likes what you did, then you end up in the top of the pile. The program itself, when we applied, we said, here are our goals. Here's why we want to show up to this accelerator, and we want to spend time in this community to get access to these people, to have, for us, it was, we wanted people to know who we are and what we're doing within the tools community. That was the reason that we applied. And so, whatever else is going on inside our building while we were going through the program, it's not irrelevant, but it's not the focus of the application. It's not like I'm applying to BioTools so that I can go build my product. Like, you're already going to be building your product with grant money or maybe seed money or whatever.
Yeah, and thanks, Ricky. And I think reading the question again, if you're talking about our BARDA funding solicitation, that application window has closed, but if you reach out, we may be able to extend that deadline just a few days. So that would be maybe proof of concept manufacturing, but it really depends. So our next question is we have commitments on our next round to extend the runway, but we haven't closed yet. We're almost ready to submit the application, but should we wait until we close? Just wondering about timing. So I think I would go ahead and submit the application. And if you have any material events that happen after you submit the application, let us know and we'll update, or we'll let you update your application. That's no problem, and that can happen at any time. So I would go ahead and submit, and then if a material event happens, we're happy to update that, and that'll become the new data. So Ricky, we got a question for you. What was your time commitment during the accelerator?
So of course no one is like keeping a time card. So you spend as much time as you're going to spend. In terms of things that I did that I wouldn't have done otherwise, there are these 2 on-site visits, which are, a couple days of focused attention. And then there were meetings once, twice, maybe 3 times a week, depending, but they were all things that I would have wanted to do anyway. So ostensibly the time commitment was not particularly high. I think that in terms of maybe the more interesting question is like, what's the time commitment in the run-up before you know whether you're in the cohort, where you're really more in that kind of operational mode. And my philosophy on that was, because, and I'm speaking very much from the operator side here, not from the BioTools side, when you apply to a program like this, you have no idea if it's going to be useful or not. And so I made a choice early on. I wasn't going to engage any of the rest of my team on it. I wasn't going to spend their time on it. I wasn't going to talk about it in team meetings. I sat down with a fresh cup of coffee and I said, I'm going to fill out this form and I'm not going to stand up until it's done. I wrote it in one go. I read each question. I said, if I were sitting across the table from someone asking me this question, how would I answer it? I banged it out, right? Whole thing in one sitting. I came back to it a few days later, did an editing pass, and sent go. And I think in retrospect, that worked really well, at least for us, because at the end of the day, BioTools, MedTech, they have their own, you guys have your own goals as a program. Um, and um, and it's really important for us to be transparent about who we are, what we're trying to accomplish, and just give you the information you need to say if you think it's a good fit. And so with that philosophy, I was like, I'm just going to get you the information as quickly as I can, not sweat it too much. And if BTI comes back and says, yeah, this is cool, let's keep talking, great, I'll spend time on the next thing. So my philosophy throughout, it started with that form, but I continued to do it, was write quickly and act immediately. So if I get an inbound email, they ask for a piece of, a form, whatever, just sit down 5 minutes, bang it out, get it back, be responsive, and then go back to doing my actual job. That served us very well, because it meant that we were able to engage, we were able to participate in all the things. We were on time, we did show up, but it ended up not being a huge time commitment through that kind of run up until we got accepted.
Thanks, Ricky. Next question, will we get feedback on our applications regardless of if we get accepted? And the answer is, at the application phase right now, if you don't make it to the judge event, we do offer everybody feedback at the in-person judging event. We don't really offer feedback from the application phase. I will say, if you don't get accepted this year and you're not invited to the in-person pitch event, I would recommend reach out to us in the summer if you plan to reapply. Once we're sort of like in the middle of the program, we got a little more free time on our side. And we are happy to provide you some feedback for your application for the next cycle. And then the last question here is there an opportunity to be connected with the existing and former cohort companies, even if we're not selected for the accelerator? Not really. We post our companies on our website, so you can review the companies. They're all on LinkedIn. So I mean, I'm saying feel free to reach out on your own if you want to connect or anything like that. If there's a business reason and it makes sense, feel free to reach out, and we're happy to sort of facilitate an introduction if that makes sense. But we don't have like a formal mechanism to introduce our cohort to non-cohort alumni companies. And then one question that wasn't asked, but I will say we don't accept any confidential information in the applications, and in fact, we won't accept your application if it's got confidential information in it. Our reviewers, there's just so much complication and challenge with that. So when you're putting your application together, just make sure if you're submitting documents or supplementals, they're not marked confidential, because if they are, we're not going to reject your application. We're going to send it back to you and say, hey, we can't review this until you remove your confidential information, because we can't accept it as it is. So don't send that to us. And then let's see. Is it too late for BTI Vanguard? So the answer is no. The applications have closed, but they're still ramping up the review process. So if you reach out to us one-on-one, like I said, over the next few days, we can probably facilitate an application, a late submission application. Just reach out to us, and we can talk about that. So we are at the hour. So Ricky, thank you so much for coming. Really appreciate your perspective. Love seeing the progress and growth you guys made. And you did have the best video last year. So congratulations on all that. So we will see you around, but thanks for joining us. And if you have any questions on the application or still have some questions, we do have another info session coming up later in the month. And with that, we'll look forward to talking to you soon and seeing your application. Thanks.